I want to make a disclaimer before I start this video. In no way, shape, or form is this bashing the Joe Rogan show. Rather, I am criticizing the personal faults that I see based on what I've heard from the show. No, but in all honesty, all respect to Joe. He's clearly a professional in various fields. He's very skilled in his craft, so I want this episode to be more of a constructive show. So Joe, if this ever comes across your desk, this is all constructive criticism. It's just my personal opinion, and respect you, man. But obviously, without further delay, let's get into it. On this channel, we like to do a lot with psychology and deep analysis when it comes down to discussing certain people. Given this, I think it's important to take a step back and review Mr. Rogan as a whole, and to do that, we're going to go back to the beginning. Joe Rogan was born in Newark, New Jersey on August 11, 1967, making Joe 53 years old. Looking good, man.
Please welcome Joe Rogan. Joe!
In his 53 years of excellence, Joe has been able to create a foundation of people that have uplifted him into the podcast throne. However, while his previous fan base that he had gained from the UFC had most certainly accelerated his additional careers, we certainly cannot neglect Joe's cleverness and capitalization when transitioning to other fields. However, Joe's roots as a nationally recognized and respected individual began to grow years earlier, as most legends do. At a young age, he had accomplished two incredible feats. He had earned a black belt in Taekwondo and a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu, enabling him to gain credibility throughout the field and providing him an entrance into his secondary career as a UFC commentator in 2002. While Rogan had an immense passion for athletics of all variations, his true attention was focused on comedic relief as he started his stand-up comedy as early as 1988.
How about have Mr. Joe Rogan? Give him a hand. What's up? What's going on, huh?
Joe had only picked up on stand-up after being inspired by the movie Live on the Sunset Strip, creating a light for Rogan that would pave the way to extending his brand and influence. Rogan managed to intertwine his various hobbies into a profession, inviting various comedic icons such as Kevin Hart, Russell Brand, and Steven Crowder, all individuals known for their clever and lovable personalities as well as vivid imaginations and strong ethics. To talk about Rogan's work without observing his topics of discussion would be a great injustice, as Joe consistently discusses sociologically challenging questions regarding motivation, work ethic, and success with his guests.
Uses me in like how much energy he has. I don't know how the fuck he can do all the things he does.
Yeah.
He's always doing something. Like I go to his Instagram page all the time just to feel like a lazy fuck. I'm not kidding, man. He flies into China. It's 4 a.m. He's lifting weights. Like, what the fuck, man?
The hardest working cat I have
on the
ever
planet.
seen.
Maybe
ever
on
seen.
the planet.
Yeah,
he's
maybe
always
ever.
doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, he just sandwiches everything together. I don't know how the fuck he... A lot of people say, "Oh, I just want to sort of." They're kind of dabbling in the idea of improving themselves, and the real way to do it is you got to write down what the fuck you want and then go after it. If you decide, I'm going to get down to bang, I'm going to do this, I'm going to run a marathon in less than 5 hours, I'm going to, whatever the fuck it is, you got to write that shit down.
While it's evident that Joe keeps his relatable acquaintances close on his podcast, he often refrains from revolving around topics that are of interest to himself and tends to focus more on the guest, connecting their experiences to circumstances ranging from cell reproduction to alien abduction. Joe Rogan covers it all. While Joe himself is an excellent father, commentator, fighter, and comic, is the show itself actually good? While I have little credibility to give criticism, my opinion should be taken solely as it is, opinionated. Given this, in his attempts to connect seemingly ordinary everyday activities and hobbies to self-actualization and elevation of being, he instead creates a false sense of security in the mind of an everyday listener. While the connections that Joe draws seem original and consistently uplifting, they are bound by the laws of economic status, restricting those from understanding the limitations that financial stability can have, forgetting that while his statements are in fact correct, there is little that many can do to get to a point where freedom is no longer a currency, but rather a utility to be used to develop on a particular skill. Unfortunately, many don't have the luxury of flying to various locations to experience personal nirvana, or buy Vegas drugs like DMT just to try it. The Joe Rogan Show bases its arguments in hypotheticals. I can't think of anyone else who does that. These hypothetical circumstances that the JRE paints provides a hopeful image for listeners, gripping them to the show and keeping them on the edge of their seats for knowledge that they cannot use. From a business aspect, the Joe Rogan Show is an incredible experience each time I listen, opening opportunities for celebrities to demonstrate their more personal side, allowing for relatability and connection. As well, the Joe Rogan Show provides timeless comedy and satirical experience, making the show itself not only educational but enjoyable as well. However, despite the overwhelming positives of the show, there is an equally overwhelming amount of criticism regarding Joe Rogan's influence and misuse of it by not monitoring his language and psychedelic advertisement on his shows.
DMT, even though it's the most powerful psychedelic drug known to man, it's in every single ecosystem all over the world. It exists in plants and grasses, and it's everywhere. I mean, it's really the craziest drug to be illegal everywhere because everyone's got it in their system. It's like everyone's holding. That was like Terrence McKenna's line. Yeah, and it's pretty intense stuff, man. If you do it, you will talk to intelligent beings from other dimensions, for real. I mean, it sounds crazy.
Yeah, I don't blame this guy for laughing, but I also respect Joe for not being afraid to discuss traditionally negatively portrayed topics either. On the flip side, I personally think the arguments against Joe from parents for quote-unquote promoting psychedelics is ridiculous. As a parent, there is a responsibility to monitor your child's activity. While it doesn't entail 24/7 Life 360 scanning, it does mean knowing what your kids are listening to. To blame the Joe Rogan Show for the fault of parental neglect is silly, given the fact that Joe has stated that his show does cover and promote sensitive topics. Given a brief analyzation of Joe in his entirety, as well as his motivation behind the show, would clearly demonstrate that Rogan is a man who cares immensely about his passion and his life. He's a man who wants to share unnatural experiences with people who feel uncomfortable stepping out of their comfort zone. For that in itself, he should be applauded. Joe's motivations to create the podcast were created with positive attitudes. In my opinion, that is the most important part. So yes, the Joe Rogan Show is a good show. While the majority of the information that can be gathered from the Joe Rogan Show may be difficult to use, the pursuit of knowledge using the tools that his show provides is where the benefit of Joe's work comes in. Joe has reached great heights in his career as an individual and as a person in his entirety. He tries his best to engulf his viewers in an experience that will eject them from modern day life into a place of hypotheticals. That is the beauty of the Joe Rogan Show.